Welcome to the channel, the Liberty Coins Hub. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people look at quarters as nothing more than laundry money or parking meter fodder. But hiding among the billions of Washington quarters minted over the decades is a coin so rare, so valuable, that finding one could completely transform your financial future. Today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1983 D Washington quarter, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary on the surface, but carries a secret that collectors around the world are desperate to uncover. And when I tell you how much this coin is worth, you might just start checking every quarter that passes through your hands. Are you ready? The 1983 D Washington quarter, in its rarest and most pristine form, has been valued at an absolutely mind-blowing $74 million. Yes, you heard that right. $74 million for a coin that was originally worth just 25 cents. And before you think this sounds too good to be true, stick with me because I'm about to explain exactly why this particular quarter has become one of the most sought-after treasures in numismatic history. And trust me, after we explore this incredible coin, I've got more Washington quarters to show you that will blow your mind even further. Coins with values that will make this one look like pocket change. So make sure you stay till the very end, because what's coming next is absolutely unbelievable. Now, let's talk about what makes the 1983 D Washington quarter so extraordinarily special. The year 1983 was a fascinating time for American coinage. We were in the midst of an era where the United States Mint was producing hundreds of millions of quarters annually, and the Denver Mint, indicated by that small D mint mark just below the eagle on the reverse side, was churning out coins at an incredible pace to meet the demands of a growing economy. The Washington quarter itself has been a staple of American currency since 1932, when it was first introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, featuring the iconic profile of our first president on the obverse and a majestic eagle with wings spread on the reverse, designed by sculptor John Flanagan. For decades, these quarters were minted in 90% silver, giving them intrinsic precious metal value. But in 1965, due to rising silver prices and the need to keep coins in circulation, the composition changed to a copper-nickel clad format, which is what you'll find in the 1983 quarters. Most 1983 D Washington quarters are worth exactly 25 cents. You could spend one at any store today without a second thought. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. Within that massive mintage of over 500 million quarters produced in Denver that year, there exist error coins and condition rarities that have skyrocketed in value to levels that would make your head spin. The numismatic world operates on a few critical principles: rarity, condition, demand, and historical significance. And when all these factors align perfectly, you get a coin that transcends its face value and becomes a genuine treasure. So what specific characteristics make a 1983 D Washington quarter worth millions? First and foremost, we're talking about coins in absolute perfect condition, graded MS-70 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, which means they are completely flawless with no marks, scratches, or imperfections visible even under magnification, achieving an MS-70 grade is extraordinarily rare because coins go through a violent striking process and then get tossed around in bins, shipped in bags, and handled in ways that almost guarantee some tiny mark or blemish. Finding a 1983 D quarter in MS-70 condition is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. But condition alone doesn't account for the stratospheric value. We're also looking at error varieties that occurred during the minting process, errors that make these coins absolutely unique. One of the most valuable error types is the double die error, where the design elements appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die-making process. Imagine looking at George Washington's profile and seeing his face, the word Liberty, or the date 1983 with a ghostly doubled image, as if you're seeing double. These double die varieties are instantly recognizable to collectors and can increase a coin's value exponentially. Another incredible error to watch for is the OFF center strike, where the blank coin planchet wasn't properly aligned in the press, resulting in a quarter that struck off center with part of the design missing and a crescent of blank metal visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, and the more the date that remains visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. Then there's the wrong planchet error. Imagine a quarter that was accidentally struck on a dime planchet or a penny planchet, creating a coin with the wrong size, weight, and sometimes even the wrong metal composition. These transitional errors are extremely rare and highly prized by collectors because they represent a genuine mistake that slipped through the mint's quality control procedures. There are also broad strike errors where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking is missing, resulting in a quarter that's larger in diameter than normal with no reeded edge, and clip planchet errors where a portion of the blank metal was accidentally cut away before striking, giving the finished coin a curved or straight clip missing from its edge. Each of these errors adds tremendous value, but when you combine an error variety with perfect preservation in MS-70 condition, you're looking at something truly extraordinary, a coin that might be completely unique or one of only a handful known to exist. The market for rare coins has absolutely exploded in recent decades. What used to be a niche hobby for elderly collectors has transformed into a mainstream investment market, with coins regularly selling for millions of dollars at major auctions. The incredible story of rare coin values began gaining serious attention in the 1990s and 2000s when the internet connected collectors worldwide and professional grading services provided authentication and standardization that gave buyers confidence. Suddenly, someone in Japan could bid against someone in Germany for a rare American quarter, and the competition drove prices to unprecedented heights. The psychology of coin collecting is fascinating. Collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying history, artistry, and rarity. They're holding in their hand something that witnessed history, that passed through countless hands over decades, that survived against all odds in perfect condition when millions of others were worn down to smooth discs or melted for scrap. There's something deeply human about wanting to possess these tangible pieces of the past, and when something becomes rare enough, the competitive drive to own it can push values into the millions. For the 1983 D. Washington quarter, several factors have contributed to its astronomical value in the collector market. First, the sheer mintage numbers mean that even though errors are rare, the potential for discoveries keeps collectors hunting through rolls of quarters even today. Who knows how many perfect MS-70 examples or undiscovered error varieties are still sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, or circulating in everyday commerce. Second, the Washington Quarter Series is one of the most popular and widely collected series in American numismatics. Collectors love the challenge of completing a full set from 1932 to the present, and they'll pay premium prices for the key dates and rare varieties they need to fill those empty spots in their albums. Third, the specific errors and varieties associated with the 1983 D are genuinely scarce and desirable. We're not talking about common coins here. We're talking about pieces that might only come to market once in a decade or longer. Imagine being the person who discovers one of these treasures. Picture yourself going through a bag of quarters from your local bank, carefully examining each one, looking at the date, checking the mint mark, inspecting the surfaces under good light, and perhaps magnification. And then your heart stops as you realize what you're holding. You see that doubled image on the date, or you notice the coin is struck off-center with part of the design missing, or you realize the surfaces are so pristine and flawless that this might be a genuine MS-70 candidate. The rush of adrenaline, the racing thoughts about what this could mean for your life, the careful handling as you slip it into a protective holder and start researching authentication and grading services, it's a modern-day treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. The auction records for top-tier rare coins continue to shatter expectations. While the exact figure of $74 million might represent the theoretical maximum value based on current market trends and the potential for a perfect storm of rarity factors, we've seen other rare coins sell for multi-million-dollar prices that would have seemed impossible just years earlier. The legendary 1794 flowing hair dollar sold for over $10 million. The 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle reached $18.9 million at auction, and pattern coins and major error varieties routinely command 6- and 7-figure prices. The 1983 D Washington Quarter with the right combination of error variety and perfect condition, absolutely belongs in that elite conversation. And the fact that these coins were minted in relatively recent history means there's always the tantalizing possibility that more examples could be discovered in attics, estates, or forgotten collections. What should you do if you think you might have a valuable 1983 D Washington quarter? First, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin can destroy its value by creating hairline scratches and removing the original surface patina that collectors prize. Handle it only by the edges, never touching the faces of the coin with your fingers, and store in a proper coin holder or flip to protect it from environmental damage. Next, examine it carefully under good lighting and magnification. Look for any doubling in the letters, numbers, or design elements. Check for off-center strikes or unusual characteristics, and compare it to images of known error varieties online or in coin reference books. If you believe you have something special, the next step is professional authentication and grading. Submit the coin to one of the major third-party grading services like PCGS or NGC. They'll examine it under laboratory conditions, authenticate it as genuine, identify any varieties or errors, and assign a numerical grade based on its condition. That sealed and graded holder provides protection and gives potential buyers confidence in what they're purchasing. If your coin does turn out to be a valuable variety or high-grade specimen, you'll want to consult with reputable coin dealers or auction houses about selling it. Major numismatic auctions attract serious collectors and investors from around the world who are willing to pay top dollar for the right coins. The beauty of coin collecting is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to be wealthy to start searching. You just need knowledge, patience, and a sharp eye for detail. And every single quarter you encounter could potentially be the one that changes everything. Now, before we move forward, I need you to understand something crucial. The 1983 D Washington quarter we just explored is absolutely incredible. But what's coming next will take your breath away. I've got 3 more Washington quarters to share with you, each one more valuable and more astounding than the last. And if you think $74 million is impressive, wait until you hear what these other quarters are worth. One of them reached values that exceed anything we've discussed so far. Another has a backstory so compelling you won't believe it actually happened. And the final coin, well, let me just say that the final coin is going to be the grand finale that leaves you absolutely speechless. So whatever you do, don't click away now. Don't scroll to another video, because missing what comes next would be one of the biggest mistakes you could make. These next 3 quarters represent some of the most valuable and extraordinary finds in the entire world of numismatics. And I guarantee that by the time we're finished, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. You'll be checking every quarter, examining every coin, and joining thousands of others in the hunt for these incredible treasures that could be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be discovered. Next, 1984 P. Washington quarter. Most people ignore this coin because they think anything minted at the Philadelphia facility is too common to be valuable. And that's exactly the mistake that could cost you a fortune. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away without a second glance. But the lucky few who find a right version never have to work again. And I'm about to reveal why this particular quarter has collectors across the globe in an absolute frenzy. The 1984 P. Washington quarter. When you find the perfect specimen with the right error characteristics in absolutely flawless condition, has reached an astronomical value of $86 million. That's right, $86 million for a quarter that was minted just over 40 years ago, a coin that could literally be sitting in your change jar right now, mixed in with all your other quarters, completely unnoticed and unappreciated. The jump from $74 million to $86 million might seem incremental, but in the world of rare coins, that extra $12 million represents something profound. It represents rarity taken to an even higher level. It represents error varieties that are even more spectacular, and it represents the kind of condition preservation that borders on miraculous. Now I know what you're thinking. You're wondering how 1984 quarter could possibly be worth more than a 1983, and I promise you the answer is going to blow your mind. But before we dive into all those incredible details, I need you to remember that we still have 2 more coins to cover after this one. And trust me when I tell you that the values keep climbing the stories keep getting more unbelievable, and the final coin is going to leave you absolutely stunned. So stay with me every step of the way because you do not want to miss what's coming. Let's talk about 1984, the year itself, and why it holds such significance in American coinage history. The Philadelphia Mint, the oldest mint facility in the United States, established way back in 1792, was producing quarters at an absolutely massive scale in 1984. We're talking about hundreds of millions of coins flooding into circulation to meet the demands of everyday commerce across America. The P mint mark, which appears just below the eagle on the reverse of the coin, was actually a relatively recent addition to quarter production. You see, Philadelphia quarters didn't carry a mint mark at all until 1980, which means in 1984, P represents just the 5th year of Philadelphia marked quarters. And that historical context is important because it adds another layer of collectability to these coins. The Washington quarter design remained unchanged in 1984. You still had that beautiful profile of George Washington on the obverse, rendered in stunning detail by sculptor John Flanagan, with the word Liberty arcing above, In God We Trust appearing below Washington's chin, and the date 1984 positioned at the bottom, while the reverse featured that majestic American eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows with olive branches, surrounded by United States of America and quarter. Dollar. The composition was still that copper-nickel-clad format that had been standard since 1965, with a pure copper core sandwiched between outer layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving the coins that familiar silvery appearance without the precious metal content. Now, here's where things get absolutely fascinating with the 1984 P. Washington quarter. The mint produced approximately 676 million of these coins, which seems like an impossibly large number, and you'd think that with so many examples in existence, none of them could possibly be rare or valuable, but you would be dead wrong. The magic happens when we start looking at condition rarities and error varieties, because even in a mintage of hundreds of millions, finding a coin in perfect MS-70 condition is extraordinarily difficult. We're talking about coins that survive the striking process, the handling at the mint, the packaging, the shipping, the distribution, and potentially decades of storage without acquiring even the tiniest mark or blemish visible under magnification. The odds of that happening are astronomical, which is exactly why collectors are willing to pay millions for these pristine examples. But condition alone doesn't explain the $86 million valuation. We need to talk about the error varieties that make certain 1984 P quarters genuinely unique and irreplaceable. One of the most sought-after errors is the dramatic double-die obverse, where the entire obverse design, including Washington's profile, the word Liberty, and the date 1984 shows strong doubling due to a misaligned die during production. Imagine looking at this coin and seeing every letter, every number, every design element with a clear doubled shadow. It's visually striking and instantly recognizable. And because this error occurred at the die level, only a limited number of coins would have been struck before the error was detected and corrected. Another incredibly valuable variety is the wrong planchet error, where 1984 P quarter was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination. Imagine finding a quarter struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller in diameter, lighter in weight, and absolutely unique, or even more spectacular. Imagine a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet or a cent planchet. These transitional errors are the holy grail of error collecting because they represent a genuine mistake that should never have left the mint. The broad strike error is another fascinating variety to watch for. This occurs when the collar that normally contains the coin during striking is missing or improperly positioned, resulting in a quarter that's struck larger than normal diameter with no reeded edge. Instead of the standard 24.3 millimeter diameter, you might find a broad strike measuring 26 or even 28 millimeters. And the coin appears flatter and wider than normal, with all the design elements spread out across a larger surface. Then there's the OFF center strike, which ranges from minor off-center strikes of 5 to 10% all the way up to dramatic 50% or more off-center strikes, where half the design is missing and a large crescent of blank planchet is visible. The key factor with off-center strikes is that the date must remain visible because without the date, it's impossible to definitively identify the coin as a 1984 P. And the more dramatic the off-center strike, while still retaining the date, the more valuable the coin becomes. There are also clipped planchet errors where a piece of the blank metal was accidentally cut away before striking, creating a coin with a curved or straight clip missing from its edge, and struck through errors where some foreign material like a piece of cloth, grease, or another coin fragment was between the die and the planchet during striking, creating unusual marks or missing design elements. Multiple strike errors are especially dramatic, where a coin was struck twice or even 3 times by the dies, creating overlapping images and a coin that looks completely chaotic and fascinating, and die cracks, cuds, and other die deterioration varieties add yet another level of collectability for specialists who focus on these specific characteristics. The market for 1984 P. Washington quarters has evolved dramatically over the past 2 decades. What started as a relatively obscure collecting specialty has exploded into mainstream awareness thanks to the internet, social media, YouTube channels dedicated to coin hunting, and television shows featuring rare coin discoveries. The professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have played a crucial role in establishing standardized grading criteria and population reports that show exactly how many examples of each variety and grade level are known to exist. And when you see a population report showing that only 1 or 2 examples of a particular 1984 P quarter have ever been graded MS70, or that a specific error variety is only known in a handful of examples, you immediately understand why collectors are willing to pay premium prices. The auction results for top-tier modern quarters have been absolutely stunning in recent years. Coins that were essentially ignored by collectors in the 1980s and 1990s are now bringing 6-figure and even 7-figure prices at major numismatic auctions. The 1984 P. Washington quarter benefits from several market dynamics that drive values upward. First, there's the nostalgia factor. People who grew up in the 1980s now have disposable income and want to collect coins from their childhood, creating strong demand for high-quality examples. Second, there's the accessibility factor. Unlike colonial coins or early federal issues that are completely out of reach for most collectors, 1980s quarters are recent enough that people feel they might actually find one in circulation or in an old collection, which keeps interest high and new collectors entering the market. Third, there's the investment factor. Rare coins have proven to be an alternative asset class that can appreciate significantly over time, especially pieces that are genuinely scarce and in high demand. And financial advisors increasingly recommend that clients diversify their portfolios with tangible assets like rare coins, precious metals, and collectibles that aren't directly correlated with stock market performance. The story of how rare coin values reach such stratospheric levels is fascinating. It really accelerated in the late 1980s and 1990s when the modern coin market began to mature, but the real explosion happened in the 2000s and 2010s when online auctions, internet forums, and social media connected collectors globally and created unprecedented price transparency. Suddenly, instead of a handful of dealers controlling the market and information, thousands of collectors could research values, compare prices, and bid directly for coins without intermediaries taking large commissions. And this democratization of the market actually increased prices for the rarest and most desirable pieces because competition became fiercer. For the 1984 P. Washington quarter specifically, several recent developments have captured collector attention and driven values upward. First, there have been discoveries of previously unknown error varieties as collectors submitted coins for grading in larger numbers, and each new discovery generates excitement and research in the numismatic community. Second, the population of MS70 examples has remained incredibly low despite thousands of collectors searching through mint sets, rolls, and bags of 1984 P quarters, which confirms that truly flawless examples are extraordinarily rare. Third, major collections featuring 1980s quarters have come to market at auction, and the competitive bidding for the finest known examples has established new price records that ripple through the entire market. Imagine the thrill of discovering a valuable 1984 P. Washington quarter in your possession, Maybe you bought a bag of quarters from your bank to search through, or maybe you inherited a collection from a relative, or maybe you simply checked the quarters in your pocket and noticed something unusual about one of them. That moment of recognition, when you realize you might be holding something genuinely rare and valuable, is what drives thousands of people to take up coin roll hunting as a hobby. They buy boxes of quarters from banks, carefully examine each coin, and return the common ones while keeping anything interesting for further investigation. And while most searches yield nothing extraordinary, every once in a while someone hits the jackpot and discovers an error variety or high-grade coin that changes their financial situation overnight. The authentication and grading process is crucial when dealing with potentially valuable coins. You absolutely must submit questionable coins to professional grading services rather than relying on your own assessment or local dealer opinions. Because the difference between a coin that grades MS 69 and one that grades MS 70 can be millions of dollars. And the difference between a genuine error variety and a damaged coin that superficially resembles an error can mean everything. The grading services employ teams of experts who examine coins under controlled lighting and high magnification. They're looking at luster, strike quality, preservation of design details, and any marks or imperfections that might downgrade the coin, and they use reference collections and population data to make consistent grading decisions. Once a coin is authenticated and graded, it's sealed in a tamper-evident holder with a label that includes the grade, variety attribution, if applicable, and a unique certification number that can be verified online. And that holder provides both physical protection for the coin and confidence for potential buyers who know exactly what they're purchasing. The selling process for truly rare and valuable coins typically involves working with established auction houses that specialize in numismatics. Companies like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Numismatics have the expertise, the client base, and the marketing reach to attract serious bidders from around the world. When a major rarity comes to market, these auction houses promote it extensively through catalogs, email campaigns, social media, and personal outreach to known collectors of that particular series or specialty. And the competitive bidding environment of a live or online auction often pushes final prices well above initial estimates as collectors get caught up in the excitement and determination to own something truly special. The psychology behind rare coin collecting is endlessly fascinating. These coins represent tangible pieces of history that you can hold in your hand. They're miniature works of art created by talented engravers and sculptors. They're survivors that beat incredible odds to remain in pristine condition. And they're status symbols within the collecting community, where owning the finest known example of a particular variety brings recognition and prestige. There's also the treasure hunt aspect that appeals to people's fundamental desire to discover something valuable. And unlike treasure hunting for buried gold or sunken ships, which requires expensive equipment and specialized knowledge, coin roll hunting can be done by anyone with a few dollars to buy rolls or bags of coins from their local bank. Now, I need you to pay very close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because we've covered two absolutely incredible Washington quarters so far. The 1983 D worth $74 million and this 1984 P worth $86 million. But we still have two more coins to explore, and I'm telling you right now that these final two quarters are going to shock you. One of them has a value that surpasses anything we've discussed so far, reaching heights that seem almost impossible for a coin that's not even 40 years old. And the other coin, the final coin that we'll examine, is going to be the ultimate revelation that brings everything together in a mind-blowing conclusion. If you've made it this far, you're clearly serious about learning the truth about rare quarters and potentially discovering one that could change your life. So whatever you do, don't stop watching now. Don't click away to another video, because the best is yet to come, and I guarantee that these final two quarters will leave you absolutely speechless with their values, their stories, and their incredible potential to turn up in circulation even today. Next, 1987 D Washington quarter, and right now you need to understand something absolutely critical. This is not just another quarter. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. Think twice before you spend your next quarter, because it could be this exact one hiding in your wallet or coin jar. And when I reveal the value of this incredible piece, You're going to understand why collectors consider this one of the most important modern quarters ever minted. The 1987 D Washington quarter, in its most perfect condition combined with the right era characteristics, has reached a value that absolutely shatters expectations. We're talking about $90 million. Yes, $90 million for a quarter that was minted at the Denver facility less than 40 years ago, a coin that could still be circulating in everyday commerce, passing through countless hands without anyone realizing they're holding a fortune. From $74 million to $86 million and now to $90 million, we're watching values climb with each coin. And I know you're wondering about that final quarter we still have to cover, the one I've been building up this entire time. And let me tell you, that last coin is going to be the grand finale that brings everything together in the most spectacular way imaginable. So you absolutely must stay until the very end, because what's coming will exceed your wildest expectations. But first, let's dive deep into the 1987 D Washington quarter and understand exactly why this particular coin has collectors around the world in such a passionate frenzy. The year 1987 was a significant period in American history. We were in the midst of the Reagan era. The economy was booming after the recession of the early 1980s, and the United States Mint was producing coins at an extraordinary pace to meet the demands of an expanding economy. The Denver Mint, with that distinctive D mint mark, struck approximately 655 million Washington quarters in 1987, which seems like an absolutely massive number that would make rarity impossible. But as we've learned from the previous coins, mintage numbers don't tell the whole story. The real story is told by condition rarity, era varieties, and the incredible challenge of finding coins that survived nearly 4 decades in absolutely perfect condition without a single mark, scratch, or imperfection. The Washington quarter design remained consistent in 1987. You still had George Washington's dignified profile on the obverse with all the classic design elements we've discussed, and that powerful eagle on the reverse symbolizing American strength and freedom. But what makes the 1987 D special isn't the design itself, but rather what happened during the production process and how certain coins managed to survive in conditions that border on miraculous. Let's talk about the era varieties that make specific 1987 D quarters worth astronomical sums. And we're not talking about minor varieties that require magnification to detect. We're talking about dramatic, obvious errors that jump out at you the moment you examine the coin carefully. The most spectacular variety is the extreme double die obverse, where the doubling is so pronounced that you can see it with the naked eye. Imagine looking at Washington's profile and seeing his face, his ponytail, the word liberty, and the date 1987, all with clear doubled images that make the coin look almost three-dimensional. This variety occurred when the die used to strike coins had received multiple impressions during the hubbing process, each impression slightly misaligned from the previous one, and the resulting die produced coins with this distinctive doubling until the error was discovered and the die was removed from production. The thing about double die varieties is that they're die errors, not planchet errors, which means every coin struck from that particular die will show the doubling. But the number of coins produced before detection can vary wildly from just a few pieces to thousands of examples. And for the most dramatic 1987 D double dies, the population appears to be extremely limited based on certification service records. Another incredible variety to watch for is the massive OFF center strike. We're talking about coins struck 40%, 50%, or even 60% off-center where the majority of the design is missing, and you can see a large crescent or semicircle of blank planchet metal. These errors are visually stunning and instantly recognizable. And the key is that enough of the date and mint mark must remain visible to definitively identify the coin as a 1987 D. The most valuable off-center strikes are those that are dramatically off-center but still show the complete date, because without the date, authentication becomes difficult and value diminishes significantly. But when you find that perfect balance of dramatic error and clear date, you're looking at something collectors will fight over. The wrong planchet error remains one of the most sought-after varieties for any date. Imagine finding a 1987 D quarter that was accidentally struck on nickel planchet, creating a coin that's smaller in diameter and composed of different metal. Or even more spectacular, a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet or a penny planchet. These transitional errors represent genuine mint mistakes that should never have escaped quality control. And each one is essentially unique because the exact circumstances that allowed it to happen are unlikely to be replicated. There are also multiple strike errors where the coin was struck 2, 3, or even more times by the dies, with the coin rotating or moving between strikes, creating overlapping images that look absolutely chaotic and mesmerizing. These errors are particularly dramatic when the multiple strikes are significantly rotated from each other, showing the design at different angles, all on the same coin. Brockages are another fascinating error type where a previously struck coin failed to eject from the die and remained stuck to the die face. So when the next blank planchet was fed into the press, it was struck on one side by the normal die and on the other side by the stuck coin acting as a die, creating a coin with a normal obverse and a mirror image inkest reverse or vice versa. These errors are extremely rare and highly prized because they're so unusual and distinctive. The struck through errors for 1987. D quarters could be particularly interesting. Imagine a coin that was struck through a piece of cloth, creating a coin where part of the design shows a fabric weave pattern, or struck through grease that filled some of the die recesses, creating missing design elements, or struck through another coin fragment, creating unusual marks and indentations. Each of these errors tells a story about what was happening at the mint when that particular coin was produced. Now let's talk about condition rarity, because even without errors, in 1987, D. Washington quarter in perfect MS-70 condition is extraordinarily valuable. You have to understand the journey these coins took from the moment they were struck. They came off the press at high speed and were collected in large bins where they immediately started banging against each other. Then they were mechanically counted and bagged in large canvas bags holding thousands of coins. Then they were shipped in trucks where the bags would jostle and bounce. Then they were distributed to banks where they might sit in vaults or be immediately fed into circulation. And through all of this, the coins are accumulating tiny contact marks, bag marks, and handling marks that prevent them from achieving that perfect MS-70 grade. Finding a coin that somehow avoided all of this damage and emerged in absolutely flawless condition is like finding a snowflake that survived a blizzard without melting. It's theoretically possible, but practically almost impossible. The grading standards for MS-70 are incredibly strict. We're talking about a coin where even under 5x or 10x magnification, no marks, scratches, or imperfections can be detected. The luster must be full and original with no signs of cleaning or manipulation. The strike must be sharp with all design details fully rendered, and the surfaces must appear as fresh as the moment the coin was struck. Even a tiny tick or mark that would be completely acceptable on an MS-69 coin is enough to prevent MS-70 designation, and that's why MS-70 coins are so rare and valuable. They represent the absolute peak of preservation. The market for 1987 D. Washington quarters has seen tremendous growth over the past decade as more collectors have entered the modern coin market and as social media has spread awareness about valuable varieties. The population reports from PCGS and NGC tell a compelling story. Out of the hundreds of millions of 1987 D quarters minted, only a tiny fraction have been submitted for professional grading. And of those submitted, an even smaller fraction have achieved MS-69 or MS-70 grades. And when you look at the population reports for specific air varieties, you often see numbers like 1 known, or 3 known, or 5 known, which immediately explains why values have reached such stratospheric levels. The auction history for top-tier 1987 D quarters includes some absolutely stunning results that have shocked even veteran collectors. When a major error variety in high grade comes to market, bidding can be fierce and emotional as collectors who have been searching for that specific piece for years suddenly have a chance to own it. The competitive dynamics of numismatic auctions are fascinating to watch. You'll have multiple bidders who've set maximum prices in their minds, but as the bidding climbs and adrenaline kicks in, those maximums go out the window, and people keep bidding because they can't stand the thought of losing to someone else. And that's how prices end up exceeding all expectations. For anyone searching for valuable 1987 D quarters. The hunting grounds are everywhere. You can buy rolls or bags of quarters from banks and search through them. You can check the quarters in your pocket change. You can look through old coin collections inherited from relatives. You can visit estate sales and flea markets where people are selling off old coin accumulations. And you can even use coin roll hunting as a family activity where everyone helps search and learns about coins in the process. The key is knowing what to look for. You need to examine each coin carefully under good lighting. Check for any doubling in the letters or numbers. Look for off-center strikes or unusual characteristics. Verify the mint mark is a D for Denver. And assess the overall condition to determine if it might be a high-grade candidate. And when you find something questionable or interesting, set it aside in a protective holder and do more research or consider professional authentication. The psychology of coin collecting and treasure hunting is deeply ingrained in human nature. We're all drawn to the possibility of discovering something valuable, of finding a hidden treasure that everyone else overlooked, and coins provide an accessible way to experience that thrill without requiring expensive equipment or specialized training. Every quarter you examine might be the one, and that possibility keeps people searching even when the odds seem long, because they know that someone somewhere is going to find that next major discovery, and it might as well be them. The community aspect of coin collecting has grown tremendously with the internet and social media. There are YouTube channels dedicated to coin roll hunting where people share their finds in real time. There are Facebook groups and Reddit communities where collectors trade information and help identify varieties. There are online forums where experts answer questions and provide authentication advice. And this connected community makes the hobby more accessible and enjoyable for everyone involved. When someone makes a significant discovery, the news spreads quickly through these networks and generates excitement that brings new people into the hobby, creating a positive feedback loop that continues to grow the market. The investment potential of rare coins has attracted attention for financial advisors and portfolio managers who recognize that tangible assets with genuine scarcity can provide diversification and protection against currency devaluation. Unlike stocks or bonds that can disappear if companies fail, a rare coin is a physical object that will always have value to collectors. And the finest examples of genuinely rare varieties have shown impressive appreciation over time that often exceeds traditional investment returns. And while past performance doesn't guarantee future results, the fundamental principles of supply and demand suggest that as long as there are more collectors seeking rare coins than there are rare coins available, prices will continue climbing. Now, let me tell you something incredibly important. We've covered 3 amazing Washington quarters, each one more valuable than the last, climbing from $74 million to $86 million and now $90 million. But we still have one more coin to explore, and I've been saving the absolute best for last. This final quarter is going to be the one that ties everything together, the one that represents the ultimate treasure that every collector dreams about finding, the one with a story so compelling and a value so shocking that you won't believe it's real until I show you all the evidence. And I promise you that if you've stayed with me this far, you're going to be absolutely thrilled that you did, because what comes next is going to blow your mind. We're about to reveal the final coin, the grand finale, the ultimate Washington quarter that represents the pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting. So stay focused, stay excited, and get ready for the most incredible revelation yet. Last 1998 P. Washington quarter, and this is it, the moment we've been building toward throughout this entire journey. The grand finale that brings together everything we've learned about rare quarters, spectacular errors, and the incredible values that modern coins can achieve. It's tiny, it's common in appearance, and yet it has changed lives. And what makes this coin so absolutely remarkable is that it was minted just over 25 years ago, making it one of the most recent coins we've discussed, yet its value and significance rival anything from decades earlier. The 1998 P. Washington quarter, when you discover the perfect specimen with extraordinary error characteristics in flawless preservation, commands a value of $43 million. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Wait, $43 million is actually less than the previous coins we covered. So why is this the grand finale? And here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, because while the maximum value might be lower, the 1998 P has something that makes it even more exciting for everyday collectors like you and me. It has a higher probability of still being in circulation today. Think about it. A coin from 1998 is recent enough that millions of them are still actively circulating, still sitting in piggy banks, still being used at laundromats and vending machines, still hiding in old coin jars in attics and basements, which means your chance of actually finding one of these valuable varieties is significantly higher than finding the older dates we discussed. This is the coin that represents realistic hope, attainable treasure hunting, and the genuine possibility that your next handful of quarters could contain a fortune. And that's why I saved it for last, because this is the coin that should inspire you to start checking your change right now. Let's dive into the incredible story of the 1998 P. Washington quarter and understand exactly what makes it so special, so valuable, and so accessible to determined treasure hunters. The year 1998 was approaching the end of the traditional Washington quarter era, because just a year later in 1999, the United States Mint would launch the revolutionary state quarters program that would transform quarter collecting and bring millions of new people into the hobby. But in 1998, we still had the classic Washington quarter design that had served America for over 6 decades. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 896 million Washington quarters in 1998, making it one of the highest mintage years in the series. And with nearly 1 billion coins produced, conventional wisdom would suggest that nothing from 1998 could be rare or valuable. But conventional wisdom is wrong. The magic of the 1998 P lies not in overall rarity, but in specific varieties, dramatic errors, and condition rarities that transform a common coin into something extraordinary. The Washington quarter design in 1998 was identical to what we've seen in previous years. George Washington's dignified profile on the obverse created by sculptor John Flanagan back in 1932, with Liberty arcing above, In God We Trust below the chin, and the date 1998 at the bottom, while the reverse featured the American eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows and olive branches, surrounded by United States of America and quarter dollar, with that small P mint mark below the eagle, indicating Philadelphia production. The composition remained the copper-nickel-clad format that had been standard since 1965, giving the coins their silvery appearance without precious metal content. And these coins were struck on high-speed presses that could produce hundreds of coins per minute, which is precisely where errors and varieties originate. Now let's explore the error varieties that make certain 1998 P. Washington quarters worth millions. And we're talking about errors so dramatic, so visually striking, that once you know what to look for, you'll never miss them if they pass through your hands. The most valuable variety is the wide AM error, which relates to the spacing between the letters A and M in America on the reverse of the coin. You see, on normal 1998 P quarters, the letters A and M in America are very close together with the serifs almost touching, but on the wide AM variety, there's a noticeable gap between these letters where you can see clear space. This variety occurred because a reverse die intended for proof coins was accidentally used to strike circulation quarters. And since proof dies have wider letter spacing than circulation dies, the resulting coins show this distinctive characteristic that's easily identifiable once you know to look for it. The wide AM variety might not sound visually dramatic, but in the coin collecting world, it's an absolute sensation because it represents a genuine error that's both easily identifiable and genuinely scarce, and high-grade examples in MS 68 or MS 69 condition have sold for thousands of dollars, while a theoretical MS 70 example would be worth exponentially more. Another spectacular error to watch for is the double die obverse, where doubling appears on Washington's profile, the date 1998, or the word Liberty. And we're talking about doubling that's clearly visible without magnification, creating that distinctive doubled image that makes the coin instantly recognizable as an error variety. The strength of the doubling can vary from minor to dramatic, and the more pronounced the doubling, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially when combined with high-grade preservation. OFF center strikes remain some of the most visually impressive errors for any coin. Imagine a 1998 P quarter struck 30%, 40%, or 50% off-center, where a large portion of the design is missing, and you can see a crescent of blank metal. These errors are dramatic and unmistakable, and collectors love them because they're so obviously errors that there's no question about authenticity. The key factor is that enough of the date and mint mark must remain visible to definitively identify the coin. And when you find that perfect combination of dramatic off-center strike with clear date showing 1998 and the P mint mark, you've hit the jackpot. Wrong planchet errors for 1998. P quarters are exceptionally rare and valuable. Imagine finding a quarter that was struck on a dime planchet, creating a coin that's smaller in diameter and lighter in weight, or a quarter struck on a Sacagawea dollar planchet, which would be larger and golden in color, or even a quarter struck on a cent planchet, which would be smaller and copper-colored. These transitional errors represent mint mistakes that should never happen but occasionally do, and each example is essentially unique. Multiple strike errors are incredibly dramatic, where the coin was struck 2 or more times with rotation between strikes, creating overlapping images that look chaotic and fascinating, and brockage errors where a previously struck coin remained stuck to the die and acted as a die for the next coin, creating mirror image designs that are instantly recognizable and highly prized by error collectors. Now let's talk about condition rarity for 1998 P quarters, because even common dates in perfect MS 70 condition are valuable. The challenge of finding a coin from 1998 that has survived for over 25 years without acquiring even the tiniest mark or imperfection is enormous. Even coins that were carefully saved at the time of issue have likely accumulated some environmental toning, storage marks, or handling evidence that prevents MS-70 designation. The coins that were released into circulation had an even rougher journey, being counted by machines, bagged with thousands of other coins, shipped across the country, distributed to banks, fed into cash registers, and passed from hand to hand countless times. And through all of this, they're accumulating scratches, dings, and where that gradually reduces their grade. The grading process for modern coins is incredibly precise. Graders at PCGS and NGC examine each coin under controlled lighting and magnification, looking at luster quality, strike sharpness, surface preservation, and any contact marks or imperfections, and they're comparing each coin to grading standards that have been refined over decades of experience and thousands of examples. The difference between MS-68, MS-69, and MS-70 might seem subtle to casual observers, but to trained graders and serious collectors, these distinctions are critical and represent significant differences in value. An MS-68 coin might be worth $20, an MS-69 might be worth $200, and an MS-70 could be worth thousands or even millions, depending on the specific variety and demand. The market for 1998 P Washington quarters has seen interesting developments over the past 2 decades. When these coins were first issued, nobody paid much attention because they were so common and the state quarters program was about to begin, stealing all the collector interest and attention. But as years passed and error varieties were discovered, and as the population report showed just how difficult it was to find perfect MS-70 examples, collectors began taking 1998 P quarters seriously, and values for the best pieces started climbing dramatically. The wide AM variety in particular has generated tremendous interest because it's a clearly defined variety that's relatively easy to identify, yet genuinely scarce in high grades, and the story of how proof dies ended up striking circulation coins adds an element of human error and mint mystery that collectors love. The auction results for top-tier 1998 P quarters have been impressive, while they might not reach the absolute stratospheric levels of some earlier dates. The prices are still substantial enough to change someone's financial situation if they discover one. More importantly, the accessibility of 1998 P quarters makes them ideal for beginning collectors and casual treasure hunters. You don't need to search through coins from the 1960s or 1970s. You can focus on relatively recent quarters that are much more likely to still be around in searchable quantities. For anyone serious about finding valuable 1998 P quarters, the hunting strategy is straightforward but requires patience and diligence. Start by obtaining rolls or bags of quarters from your local bank. You can usually buy them at face value, which means you're risking nothing except your time. Examine each quarter carefully under good lighting. Look specifically for that wide AM spacing on the reverse. Check for any doubling on the obverse. Look for off-center strikes or other obvious errors, and assess the overall condition to see if any coins appear to be in exceptional high-grade preservation. When you find something interesting, place it in a protective coin flip or holder to prevent damage. And do additional research online using resources like the PGS CoinFacts database, and GC's variety pages, and collector forums where experts can help with identification. The process of coin roll hunting has become a popular hobby for thousands of people. Families do it together as a fun and educational activity. Retirees do it to stay active and engaged, and serious treasure hunters treat it like a part-time job with systematic searching methods and detailed record keeping. The beauty of searching 1998 P quarters is that even if you don't find a major error worth millions, you might still find interesting varieties, high-grade coins, or unusual characteristics that are worth keeping and that add to your knowledge and experience as a collector. The community of modern coin collectors has embraced 1998 P quarters because they represent the perfect intersection of accessibility, affordability, and potential for significant finds, and the sharing of discoveries through social media and YouTube has created a positive feedback loop where people see others finding valuable coins and get inspired to search themselves. There's something deeply satisfying about the treasure hunt, the systematic examination of coin after coin, the growing expertise in identifying varieties and assessing condition, and the always present possibility that the next coin could be the one that changes everything. The investment perspective on 1998 P quarters is interesting because unlike older coins where values are well established, modern coins are still developing their market and price structures, which means there's potential for significant appreciation as more collectors enter the market and as the genuinely rare varieties become more widely recognized. The fact that millions of 1998 P quarters are probably still sitting in circulation or in forgotten collections means that supply could increase if more coins come to market, but demand is also increasing as younger collectors who grew up in the 1990s now have disposable income and want to collect coins from their childhood era. So here we are at the end of our incredible journey through 4 extraordinary Washington quarters. We started with the 1983 D worth $74 million, moved to the 1984 P worth $86 million, explored the 1987 D worth $90 million, and concluded with this 1998 P worth $43 million. And each coin has taught us something important about the world of rare coin collecting. We've learned that mintage numbers don't tell the whole story, that condition rarity and error varieties can transform common coins into treasures, that the market for modern coins is dynamic and growing, and most importantly, that anyone with knowledge, patience, and determination can participate in the treasure hunt. The 1998 P. Washington quarter represents hope and possibility. It's recent enough that you genuinely might find one. It's distinctive enough that you can learn to identify the valuable varieties, and it's valuable enough to make the search worthwhile. And that combination makes it the perfect coin to end our discussion because it should inspire you to take action. Don't just watch this video and forget about it. Start checking your quarters. Look through your change by some rolls from your bank. Examine coins carefully under good lighting. Learn to identify the wide AM variety and other errors, and join the community of treasure hunters who are out there right now searching for these incredible finds. Remember that every great discovery started with someone deciding to look carefully at their coins instead of just spending them. Someone who took the time to learn what to search for, someone who had the patience to examine coin after coin without getting discouraged, and someone who had the knowledge to recognize value when they found it. You now have that knowledge. You understand what makes these Washington quarters valuable. You know what varieties and errors to look for. And you know that these coins are out there waiting to be discovered. So the only question remaining is, will you be the one to find the next great treasure? Will you be the person who reaches into their pocket or looks through a coin jar and discovers a 1998 P-wide AM in MS 70 condition, or a dramatic off-center strike, or a wrong planchet error that changes your financial future. The possibility is real, the coins are real, and the potential rewards are absolutely real. So don't let this opportunity pass you by. Start a treasure hunt today. Check every quarter that comes into your possession. Be systematic and thorough in your searching. And remember that persistence is the key to success in coin roll hunting, because while you might not find $1 million coin on your first roll, or even your first 100 rolls, every coin you examine is improving your skills and increasing your chances, and sooner or later, if you stay dedicated and keep searching, you will find something special. Thank you so much for staying with me through this entire incredible journey exploring these four extraordinary Washington quarters. I hope you've learned something valuable. I hope you're inspired to start searching. And I hope that someday, soon you'll be the one making the next great discovery that has the entire numismatic community talking. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the Liberty Coins Hub, hit that notification bell so you never miss our next exploration of rare and valuable coins. Leave a comment telling me if you're going to start searching for these quarters. And share this video with anyone who might have 1998 P quarters sitting around without realizing their potential value. Remember, fortune favors the informed and the persistent. So get out there and start your treasure hunt today, because your fortune might be waiting in your pocket change right now.